Hi, I'm Jim Shoup, and I'm going to talk about designing and building furniture. I'll start by saying that everything in your home is designed and made by someone somewhere. Whether it's designed and made well or poorly is just a function of intention and economics. Nothing should be designed and made poorly. It happens because we can't always align our desires and values with our pocketbook. Some things in our homes have just never been given the design opportunity that things like chairs and tables and lamps have had. What I like most is finding things that have traditionally been cheap, disposable items and seeing if I can elevate them a bit. A couple of years ago, I started noticing how ugly and messy our cat tree was. It was made of 2x4s and MDF, wrapped in kind of nasty plastic shag carpet. It lasted about maybe 2 or 3 years before it was so shredded and disgusting that you had to throw it out and buy a new one. It made me wonder why I had never thought of it as a piece of furniture, or really given it much thought at all. So I took it on as a design challenge with the following criteria. It would need to be well made and last beyond my lifetime. It had to provide a comfortable spot for our cat to nap and kind of, survey her domain. I would give her a scratching post made of replaceable natural materials. And it would not be ugly. The main thing I was trying to avoid was thinking about a cat tree as a cheap, disposable pet accessory. We love our cat, but this was never intended to show off, how much we love our cat. It wasn't a flex to say we love her so much that we make custom furniture for her. If anything, it was more about having beautiful furniture in the room rather than making the cat happy. Because God knows how you make a cat happy. I definitely don't know what her personal aesthetic is. So after making a few of these, I was asked to make a cat tree for a client whose cats love to hang out in the front window of their home. So that's the project you see me working on here. For this design, I took the idea of a cat tree a little bit more literally, working with the idea of roots and trunk and branches and canopy. In this case, I'm using 2 trees joined at the trunk. That comes from the fact that there are 2 cats in this instance rather than the single cat trees that I'd been building previously. And if you have cats at home and you're thinking about trying to design and build something for a specific purpose for a cat to use in a particular way, you're right in thinking it's absolutely ludicrous to do that. But I'm doing it anyway. What I hope in the end is that I can make a piece of furniture that works well as a piece of furniture that the cats can use in a way that I intended them to use it and in ways that I never thought about. I think that's a general design principle to keep in mind no matter what you're designing, whether you're designing for humans or cats or whatever. You never really know exactly how something is going to be used in the end, but you should design something to a purpose and not be disappointed if it's used in a different way. And in fact, be happy or excited that somebody's found a different way to use something that you've designed. The section that I'm working on here is the trunk, and it will be eventually wrapped in rope. I did a lot of research on the kind of rope to use for pets, and one of the places I found the most interesting information was actually with owners of parrots who need to make sure that really anything that they give their parrot access to can also be eaten, because parrots will, chew and swallow just about anything you put in their cage or give them access to. So I'm going to be using a natural sisal rope that hasn't been dipped in oil, which is something that people do with sisal rope if it's used outside. So this would be a natural sisal rope. And we've used it for a while on the cat trees that we've made, and it holds up for quite a while, and cats seem to really love using it for their claws. And it doesn't make a big mess the way that the carpet did on the older cat trees that we had. So here I'm working on the base or the roots of the tree, and while putting this together, I kind of suspected that I wasn't going to be happy with the design, and it took a while to really let that sink in. So part of the design process, I do design things in this case in a CAD program, but you can't really understand what something is going to look like until you build it. And so I will revisit the base of this at some point because I'm not terribly happy with it. For the top, I'm laying out 2 conjoined circles that just slightly overlap, enough to give it a solid bridge between the 2 circles, but not so much that you can't really distinguish the 2 as individual circles. It's at this point in projects like this that I start to really think about how inefficient the use of wood can be, especially in projects that are, I don't know, a little bit more elaborate in their use of materials. In this case, what I'm trying to do is build essentially 2 conjoined bowls out of 1 large slab of walnut. To do that, I'm starting with 12-quarter walnut, which is roughly 3 inches thick, and carving out the waste material for, these 2 circles, these 2 bowls, which is really the vast majority of material. So you start with a fairly large slab, in this case about 24 by 48 inches and 3 inches thick, and then you just progressively eliminate more and more materials, turning about 3/4 of the volume of that wood into sawdust, or at a minimum offcut chunks. So here I'm looking at the overall design, and especially the base, and I'm not really happy with the base. It's too low to the ground. It doesn't have enough form to it. It doesn't have enough shape to it. And so I've gone back in and kind of aggressively decided to reshape the base, the roots of this tree, as it were. It's always a scary thing to kind of, take the grinder or the rasp to something you thought was effectively finished, at least in shape. It can be pretty scary. So, but in this case, it was really necessary because the base of this just wasn't what I was looking for. I like using hide glue for anything on a build that I may want to disassemble at some point, or repair, or adjust or modify in the future, because hide glue is a little bit more forgiving when it comes to undoing and redoing a joint. I'll use PVA glues or epoxy to laminate woods together that I don't think are ever going to come apart or need to come apart. So at this point, the build is essentially glued up, and assembled. And this is always a point in a build where I start to doubt my design because it's effectively finished, but isn't completely finished. And it's all the little details that go, I think, into completing a design. The transitions between one piece and another piece, the small changes to an edge or a surface that I feel like make an outsized difference in the final product. And I'm always surprised in the end how much different I feel about a piece between the final assembly and the final refinement stage. When you get to the point where you're applying finish, for instance, in this case. And the finish process itself, is a journey of how you feel about something, because it's such a progression of layers that, the first time you put down a layer of finish is always exciting because it's, what changes the look of the wood and deepens the contrast and brightens the colors. But, you generally go through 5, 6, 7 layers of finish before you complete it. And it changes over and over again in that process. So here we're wrapping the trunk in the rope, and all that work that went into, turning and joining the base is going to be permanently covered, which is kind of funny that I would do that much work and then effectively hide it. But it was necessary for the form of the object. Here, Michelle is making rope pads that will go in the bottom of the two bowls on the top of the tree. And those keep the pillows from sliding when cats jump in or out. Cats tend to use a lot of force when they spring, especially out of the top of the cat tree. And if it was just a pillow on a finished piece of hardwood, the pillow would just fly off. So the pad is stiff enough to hold its form inside the bowl while the pillow stays kind of stuck to it. So it works nicely as a combination. And the design of the pillows was really meant to echo tree leaves just vaguely and hide black and white cat fur that it was destined for. And you can see here the pads inside the top of the tree, and then the pillows sit on top of those pads. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this all the way through, and hope you got something out of it. It was really a great project to do, and I hope that you'll like or subscribe or share this video if you're so inclined. And be sure to wave hi to Sal and Val here as they enjoy their new little cat tree. Cheers.